Welcome in, everybody. Windy City Bulls podcast live every Monday, 4 o'clock. That's right. The Bulls did lose Saturday night to Memphis. But before we get going, gentlemen, first of all, Coach, good to see you. Congratulations on making it again to the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see you. And very good to see Beto back this week.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-week hiatus. It's too much for me. I was going through withdrawals.
It feels right all over again. We do have to start the show with a major incident last night at a major Chicago restaurant. Now, Sunday night, I was invited to dinner with a gentleman who, Coach, major star in the reality TV world. If you're watching Real Housewives of Utah, or you used to listen to the Coach and the Kid back in the day, you may know the name Seth Marks. So Seth is a longtime wannabe, similar to perhaps some people that I know, myself included, media star, and but his like kind of borderline hit it big with Real Wives Utah. Like he gets recognized wherever he goes. So he's in town for a night. He wants to meet at dinner. Should I say what restaurant it is? Fine, I'll say it. He wants to go to Gibsons. Okay, so 6:30 Gibsons. All right. And by the way, the chat is open for. I'd love to get reaction for this one. Thank you for checking in. So I get there 6:30. He's not there. I walk in. I'm not dressed like I'm dressed right now. Very professional for DeWindy. A little more casual dress. Pullover, whatnot. I say to the first maitre d' at Gibsons, I say, do you have any tables available? Yeah, just walk right in. It's first come, first serve in the bar area. So I kind of look at him like, why are you throwing me? Why are you putting me in the bar area? What's up with that? But that's fine. I like a bar area. Let's see what's going on in the bar scene. So I walk in, super crowded, not a lot of tables. I don't see this dude. It's not going to be a good conversations point. So I walk back out. I say to him, like, do you have any tables actually in the dining room? And so he's like, hey, hang on one second. Like, this is like I'm asking for a major thing, like asking you to sit in the dining room at a restaurant. So he goes over to the other maitre d' table. They talk to the other maitre d' table. Go over there and talk to them that they have something for you. So I'm like, how you doing? Mark Carman, DeWindy City YouTube. Do you have a table for me? And yes, absolutely. They walk me in. I don't know if you've ever been to Gibsons, but there's a very first table, like 3 steps into the dining room, which is clearly the worst table in the dining room because there's zero privacy. Like that's, and they're like, you can sit here, sir. And I'm like, all right, you're putting me in the worst table, but I'm wearing this old coat, and you just like I'm getting zero respect. Clearly, you're not a DeWindy City viewer, and this is upsetting. But I'm going to sit here. So then Seth shows up 10 minutes later. All right, I'm sitting down. I've got my glass of Cabernet. I've had some bread. I've perused the menu. And then Seth walks in, and I can see like the maitre d's kind of have a little conversation. They're scurrying around, and they're saying, and he comes, he sits down. He says, we greet each other, yada, yada. And they walk over to the table. Mr. Marks, his name is Seth Marks. Mr. Marks, we have a much better table for you. And they move us from this table where I've already, soiled the silverware, had a drink, some waiters have been around. They move us into the back area of Gibsons, the premier area, because I'm with Mr. Marks. And no one says like anything to me. Apologize, sir. Thank you, sir. Can we pay you an appetizer? Can we get you a dessert? Like anything on the utter disrespect I received from go into the bar area and see if you can find a table. The first table here it gives to now somebody shows up when there were all these other tables were available, but we weren't going to give them to you, Carman. I think this is a major issue. I think I got beef with Gibsons. I mean, Beto, you're kind of looking at me like in amazement right now. Like, would that bother you, or am I just nuts?
Yeah. So, did you get typecast based on the type of jacket that you wore, or what was what do you think the culprit was here?
I think I was wearing like a standard like Columbia winter coat. I think I got And like also they maybe only had like 3 tables, and Seth is this, Real Housewives. They wanted to take care of him. But you would think like and like no one said anything. Like I thought this was I was really upset.
Wait, so is this how many was it like busy in the dining room? Like what was the deal? What was the vibe?
It was 75% full.
So they had tables in the dining room. You weren't like taking up the last one.
It was not the last table. There was maybe 3 tables in the back area.
Personal opinion, overpriced steak anyway. You can get a lot more bang for your buck at other steakhouses. So I don't know if you go back there.
I don't know if you go back.
You have to. I think you got to look at the glass half full. You got to look at this glass half full. Right? You are with a major star of Real Housewives of Utah. So now you understand what really matters in this town. It's not, being a sports broadcaster. It's being a husband of a real housewife. So take what you want out of that. But that's what the deal is these days. It's a different world, man.
I don't mind the second part of the story as much as the first. Like I kind of get the whole like let's move him to a VIP. Fine, exactly. That's how it is. The first part I have a little bit of an issue with, like when there's clearly a table available and they just funnel you directly to the open seating bar. I think that's a little much.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Golden Knowledge Podcast, you are welcome, and thank you for being here. I would have liked the same treatment at Gibsons. Thank you for joining our establishment. Can you? We would love to have you. Let me find the greatest table. Instead, Carman, you sit in the worst table that we have for you until somebody of substance comes along, and then we'll move you to the back. This ain't right. And
didn't it was like the rumor that Michael had like his own like room or floor there?
Right.
No,
well,
it was at Bigsby. No, he had his own room at Bigsby.
This isn't Bigsby and
Probably
Brothers
everywhere.
This isn't Bigsby and Brothers in the 80s. But like, I'm walking through. I'm seeing all the pictures of everybody on the wall, and there are some B-level, C-level Chicago media types that are on the wall. I mean, I'm not even asking to be on the wall here. Been doing this for about 20 years. Like, with one picture on a wall and one at I don't know, Mustard's Last Stand would be nice, but in Evanston, but like, go sit in the bar versus, and then okay, we'll let you in the dining room, but we're going to give you the worst table, and then we're going to move you and not say, oh, sir, sorry, sir, anything. How about an appetizer? Can I get
just go to Steak 48 now? Just go to Steak 48 now. There's so many good steakhouses in Chicago. You never have to
so many.
Steakhouse doesn't take care of you, right? If that steakhouse won't take care of you, Gibson's off the list. Go to the other 20 that are just as good or better.
Simon weighing in with the story is Exhibit A and the Seth Marks comment once made from Mark Carman in dispute. Carman, if I've got issues, you've got volumes. It was actually you've got articles. Yes, this was it was somebody like tried this. Oh, thanks. It's no. I'm like no. This is just like this was a painful moment. But all right. Thank you to Gibsons for the $200 meal. 1 steak, 1 fish, 1 appetizer, and the 3 tables. But okay, can we? Well, I'm going to move on now. I got to settle into what is the Chicago Bulls. Reactions from Saturday night. Lost to Memphis. John Morant was out of his mind, looking like Derrick Rose in his MVP year. DeMar streak busted, but still scores over 30. DeMar getting the technical, getting kicked out at the end. Was it a foul? Was it not? I probably would say not, but DeMar gets a little frustrated every now and then. That's okay. DeMar, you're allowed. And some interesting, I thought, decisions down the stretch as far as rotations. Like Derrick Jones is out there. Coach, you want to start this one out? Reactions to Saturday night?
John Morant just was great. I think the big takeaway for me was how Steven Adams dominated parts of that game. And that is what the Bulls brought in Tristan Thompson, I think, to try and help in the future on that. So hopefully that's the area of rotations for Billy Donovan and how he wants to play. How does he want to counteract that? Do you counteract that with Tristan Thompson? Do you counteract that by just going small ball? But the one weakness the Bulls have really displayed throughout the years, they really struggle when they play against a big center that can impact the game.
he looks different on Memphis, man. Way more aggressive. They're using him more offensively, Steven Adams. I was impressed.
And that's
it was
newer.
interesting.
He had really low usage in the first half of the year, and they've really started to go to him a little bit more, and it's kind of aligned with some of their winning streak. Obviously, Ja opens up the floor for everyone else too, but that's been a newer revelation.
The Ja Morant spinning layup in the air and the Ja Morant alley-oop, I think late in the third quarter. I mean, did anybody at the time think that Ja Morant was going to be better than Zion? Because I had an inkling of it. Like, this dude looks like he's going to have a long career in the NBA, whereas Zion is blowing out his shoe at Duke. But like, it was such an unpopular opinion at the time that I never went really bold. I'm telling you, Ja Morant's gonna have a better career than Zion.
I had that conversation with a lot of people, and this is why I always preface every conversation on that, because people would ask me, "Would you take Zion number one?" And I said, "Yeah, I probably would." I said, "But if I saw a workout," I said, "one thing I don't get to see them personally. If I got to see Ja Morant in a workout and I was really impressed with him, I said that I probably would take him because I think it's a more impactful position in the NBA than Zion's position." I said the same thing about Trae Young when people were debating Trae Young and DeAndre Ayton. Remember, it was Trae Young, DeAndre Ayton, and Bagley and Doncic. I never saw Doncic play, but I said the same thing. I would have taken Trae Young number one over Bagley and Ayton. I said the position is of much greater importance in the NBA right now. So I said the same thing about Ja. It's just, I saw Ja play 4 times at Murray State. I saw him play twice in the NCAA tournament, maybe 2 other times. I saw Zion play almost 15 games that year. It was just like, hey, if I see Ja Morant in a workout and he shoots the ball at the level I like and he has a personality that I like, I would have considered it for sure.
I used to did some work with Ray Giacoletti, who's an assistant at SLU now, but he coached at Utah. He was the head coach when Bogut was there, assistant under Mark Few for a long time or Gonzaga. I asked him about Ja Morant because the year when he was a senior, and he goes, top 5. He's like, I've seen him a bunch in person, top 5 college player I've ever seen in person.
Wow.
So he absolutely loved Ja Morant. He's been around some big guys. And then you add the other layer that you have to add in is I think people always were, because Zion was so unique just in his body type, people were a little concerned about the injury portion of it and what could happen. And so that was the other thing that you had to take into consideration. And Zion, when he's playing, he's been great, like almost underrated, because I think people just expected from him. His numbers were fantastic, but my goodness, Ja Morant is just absurd.
That's true. He does have great numbers. He's just not on the court a whole lot and getting better seemingly by the moment. So what I mean, listen, he's 21, 22 years old. He could figure it out. It might change, but right now, clearly, if you redrafted that one, no one would take Zion over Ja Morant. DeMar, going back to the Bulls, 42 minutes, which is a heavy, heavy usage night for him. 10 for 29, which I haven't looked back on the last time he shot at that level. I'm guessing that might be the worst of the year for him. But he did have 31. He did have huge shots down the stretch, and the MVP chants were rolling. But I thought maybe of most interest from the game was the first bad game that we saw from Ayo. Just weird turnovers. It almost seemed like I don't know if Ja Morant being on the court and doing what he was doing had him just like, oh my God, I can't believe the level of this guy. But didn't score, and they went with Kobe White down the stretch, rightfully so. He had a bunch of White had a good game. He had, 15 on 5 of 11, 3 of 6 from 3. I do wonder, it's one game, Carman overreaction, here we go. But, I could see Ayo getting squeezed in the playoffs. If Lonzo's back and he's playing well and he's shooting well, and White and White's and Kobe's side, Ayo's going to struggle to get minutes. That could happen, right? I mean, that's just the reality of the amount of talent they have at that position.
Absolutely. I mean, Caruso and Ball are going to play ahead of Ayo, and White is a different dimension than Ayo. So that's why we talked about that. I think last week that, if there was a player, you could have traded Javonte Green, because there's going to be a player who's squeezed out of the rotation for sure. between Javonte Green, Caruso, Ball, White, and Dosunmu, 2 of those players are not going to play a ton, and one of them is going to barely play. That's just the reality of what's going to eventually happen.
Yeah,
White
I think
hit
Javonte Green is a guy that could, especially with Patrick Williams coming back, hopefully at some point, that could be squeezed as well.
Javonte played great on Saturday.
Oh, and this is no fault of his own. Like I love watching him play. He's a great guy, but to your point, like you got to squeeze out someone.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I always look for body language on these things because I know that if
I was
no, yeah. if I was Io on Saturday and I'm playing like shit, right, and now Kobe's getting my minutes down the stretch, and then he's hitting threes, I'd have a hard time being the guy jumping up and down for him. That's just because I would be so jealous that it wasn't me. And like they showed Io after one Kobe three, and he had this look of like nothingness on his face. Like it definitely. Io was feeling the at least from Carm's psychological analysis, Io was missing being out there that day.
So on brand of you, by the way, because like literally when DeRozan hit those game winners, the first thing you did was look at Zach LaVine, not DeRozan. You looked at Zach LaVine's reaction to DeRozan hitting the game winner. Same thing.
Yes,
same thing.
Well, right. And by the way, on Zach is I have a hard time. Sort of respecting the way he plays. Like I just feel like he feels like a gunner to me with his step back three, hand in your face. There's no way that's going in, and then it just goes in. Like they're bad shots. It looks to me like you're hogging the basketball. Like give it up. That's a horrible shot. You're just hunting your shot. But then they go in. So you gotta give him his due, right? Am I the only one that has that reaction? You're both looking at me a little bit crazy with that thought.
I mean, if you're going to feel that way, you have to feel that way about DeRozan almost all the time because DeRozan, I mean, Beto sent us an awesome stat there. He's taken 579 contested shots. Like the next highest was Kevin Durant at 376. Like the amount of hard contested shots DeRozan is shooting as compared to LaVine, I would have a hard time going after LaVine right now.
But yes, and like shooting a contested 16, 17-footer versus a 23-footer to me is a huge difference. Like DeMar is basically doing it somewhere around the foul line, whereas Zach's taking a contested shot from behind the arc. And it's like that.
But his percentage is strong. Like his 3-point percentage is a high percentage for a 3-point shooter. So
I get it.
He's struggling a little bit right now. Obviously he's still trying to physically get right. And he's also trying to play with a player right now who, DeRozan's playing like Michael Jordan did back in the day. I mean, that's the reality. This is how Michael Jordan, lots of ISO, give the ball to Jordan.
Old Jordan. Young Jordan would have dunked on everybody, but old Jordan, this is.
Yeah, I said that even on Thursday. That thing I said, I was like late 90s Jordan. This is what it looks like.
Right. Okay. We're not talking about he's the same player as Jordan. We're just saying it's similar in the sense of how the team around him really has to kind of like step back and let him do his thing.
Yeah. Beto's stat for the record that you just brought up, Coach, and I love this one. Great calling out. It's effective field goal percentage leaders on tough shots, contested jumpers, as they put it. So the best in the NBA, somewhat surprisingly, Luke Kennard of the Clippers.
It's effective field goal percentage too. Just FYI.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I said, but regardless. So yeah.
No, you did. I just making sure people listening because there's a difference. But yeah, sorry, the Luke Kennard thing surprised me.
Explain the effective field goal percentage in essence, threes and twos.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the idea behind it at a high level is that it measures the efficiency of the shots you take by kind of blending in whether it's a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer, the quality of the shot and the rate that you're making in the net. So that's why I always laugh when people like announcers say, oh, DeMar's saying, F you to the analytics. It's like, no, he's not. He's like, the reason why the analytics say don't take twos is because you can't make them at an efficient clip. Like he's playing to the analytics love what DeMar's doing because he's making them at such a high clip. It's just he's the only person on that list that I sent you that's primarily a shooter within the mid-range or inside the 3-point arc. Kevin Durant shoots from all 3 levels, but the rest of those guys are all 3-point shooters. It's just funny to see that he could sit in there with a bunch of 3-point shooters and be as efficient given where he shoots the basketball.
Luke Kennard, 58% and 112 shots. Seth Curry, not Steph. Seth Curry, underrated.
Way underrated.
125 attempts on contested shots. He's shooting 58%, so tied with Kennard. And then there's DeMar, tied for 3, along with Steph Curry, which is amazing too, by the way. And that video that made the way around the internet yesterday of him warming. Insane.
It was like Jimmy Chitwood in Hoosiers during that one scene where he just makes everything.
Right? Which
same thing.
Except he was stepping back further and further and further to the moon.
30 feet further.
Yeah. Yeah. But so DeRozan's taken 519 contested shots, which is like 300 more than anyone else, except with the exception of Durant, who's taken 376. And he's shooting 56%. That's insanity. Steph's also shooting 56% on 274 shots. I would not have guessed that. That speaks to how incredible he is. Bobby Portis on 100 shots is at 55%. Good for you, Bobby.
My guy.
LaMarcus Aldridge the same. Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, and Garrison Matthews, whoever that is.
The Rockets.
Yeah.
He just shoots threes. That's
okay. is rounds out the top 10. So just one little metric that we're bringing on to Windy, but DeMar's crushing shots here. So I don't know. The one thing on DeMar that I think I haven't mentioned in at least the last 5 or 6 pods is the way Billy's using him is different than you would normally do with a star, which I think is a credit to Donovan. Like he'll play him like John Stockton used to play the first 7 minutes of the first quarter and Sloan would sub him out. And and then they would bring him back at maybe with like 1 minute to go or to start the second quarter. That's the only time I can remember anybody doing this. But Billy will play him until the 5-minute mark, take him out, put him back in at the 2-minute mark, play him until like the 8-minute mark of the second quarter, take him out again, put him back in at the 5-minute mark. Like he's using him like a hockey player. He's kind of breaking rules. Coach, I'm curious how you sitting on the pit bench back in the day, like how like it, are you impressed by this? Are you noticing this? What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot more coaches than you think are try to come up with some consistency with their rotations. There are Pat Riley was that way, where there was a lot of consistency to what he did rotation wise. It's something I really learned coaching with John Starks when I coached in the pros. It was really interesting because what was different in college was, he would kind of do a similar rotation all the time. He would bring in these guys at this time. This guy would come in at this time. This guy would come in, and all the time those guys would come in, and a 6-point lead would turn into a 1-point lead, or if we're up 1, we're down 5, and I'm yelling at him, "We got to take this guy out," and then he'd just brush that off. And a couple minutes later, hey, you know what? The rotation was over, and we were still in the game, and our starters come in fresh. And he talked about how Phil Jackson sometimes outcoached them in the sense of he put Scottie Pippen out there with a bunch of doo-doo for like 5 minutes, and you'd think like we're gonna blow these guys out, we're gonna end the game. Like the Bulls are down 6, and he's put Scottie Pippen and Will Perdue and 3 other guys that are Bobby Hansen, and you're like, oh man, the Bulls are gonna be down 15. It's gonna be over, and that's what the Knicks would think.
Start of the fourth quarter, Game 6, 1992. Pippen, BJ, Hansen, Stacey King, and I want to say Scott Williams, maybe.
Cliff.
I don't think Cliff was out there. And they Hansen hits a 3, and Stacey King's knocking down Buck Williams and hitting shots off the board. Jordan's pumping his it worked.
Yeah, we talked about that, and then the starters would come in fresh, and boom, next thing you know, Jordan and Pippen are leading a 15-point barrage, and down 8, they're up 7, just like that,
So it's funny too. So I actually, speaking of Phil Jackson, I don't want to say a disciple, but a guy who played under him. So I've kind of followed and read some things online about coaches that do, like, regardless of the score or the situation, they're just going to run the rotations night in, night out, at least in the regular season. There's a couple coaches that play the hot hand or just go complete chaos regardless of the game going. And one of them is actually Steve Kerr, which is kind of funny. So, who played under Phil Jackson. So I'm curious if that sort of tactic came up from him. But if you watch the Warriors, their rotation makes like zero sense from just like a structure standpoint. Obviously it makes sense because Steve Kerr knows what he's doing, but it's such a game changer. And you could back to your original point. I've definitely noticed that about Billy and switching how he uses DeMar, because it is way different than a lot of how the typical, your best player plays, 11, 12 minutes, sits out for 4 or 5, and then comes back in to finish the half.
You know what we haven't talked about? This kind of leads us into, we do have to talk about Thibs for a minute, don't we? Don't we have to talk about Thibs for a minute?
He's another guy that did this.
What's happened. Look what's happened to Thibs. This is now kind of the third time. The Bulls was the longest he went where things went well, but went to Minnesota, had a great 1 year, and then boom, it fell off a cliff. New York, great 1 year, it fell off a cliff. And it tells you there's got to be questions on how he deals with personnel.
Yeah. They have no talent though either. I would say that. The Knicks.
I would agree with you. Like, it was how the hell they had such a good year last year was a freaking miracle. And so now he's paying the price of getting them to a level that they shouldn't have been at. And listen, he lost Derek. Once Derek went out, how was he supposed to win basketball games? Guys, greatest point guard in the history of the league outside of Isaiah and Steph and
well, everybody's saying Ja Morant right now is Derrick Rose, 2.0. Derrick Rose in his, prime, which he had the shortest prime, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate. So, hey, I want to talk about the referees real quick because I hope one of them is watching right now. David Guthrie, early in the game on Saturday, gives DeMar DeRozan a tech. And you see this all the time where somebody complains or they spike the ball down or they have a human reaction to a basketball play, and letter of the law official comes flying in with a technical. And I don't want to authorize violence because this is a professional podcast, but it's like, dude, like if I was sitting in the front row, I'd want to scream at the official. You're like, what do you, like, you've been doing this for your entire career. You've had to have been official on some level for, 15 years to be able to make it to the league. Shouldn't you be able to control your emotions enough that you don't instantly tee a guy up who's just having a slight emotional outburst in the middle of a very hotly contested basketball game? I don't get it. I don't get what they're trying to do. At the end of the game, when DeMar loses it and he's screaming at the official over and over again and the game's over, okay, fine, kick him out. Like, that's fine. But there's constantly these technicals where they're trying to like mute the players, and it's fun for fans to sit there and watch a player have a conversation with an official or have or just have his emotions out, period, that has nothing to do with the official. I don't know what my point is, but I heard David Guthrie's name way too much on Saturday night, and I wanted to shout him out in this podcast. Guthrie, get your act together. That's all. Beto?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. I get frustrated a lot with that because, like, I'm a big fan of letting the players dictate, the game, so to speak, and don't be a sideshow. I feel like we've seen that a lot this year. I don't know did you guys see the Hamidou Diallo when he got ejected from the Pistons game?
Yeah.
That was kind of absurd.
Yeah.
They went and reviewed, like, I didn't get that at all. The late whistles, the Bulls, the thing that bothers me the most, and I hate going on this referee tangent on a podcast, but the like waiting to see if the ball goes in before they determine if something is a foul is my biggest pet peeve. And that happened in the Atlanta game.
That was the Atlanta game.
With Trae Young, like 5-6 times. So it drove me nuts. And then I was thinking this was actually college about celebrating. What coach was that? Was it Hurley at
Xavier? Bobby Hurley. He was getting the crowd going.
Got in the crowd going, got
Danny
teed
Hurley.
up, got kicked out. Danny Hurley.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of drives me nuts. But I didn't think it was a foul at the end of that Memphis game. I think DeMar was just maybe fed up from earlier, wanted the call. I was fine with that no call.
Well, then let me ask another question, and we'll be might be a little unfair here, but DeMar talks to the officials, I would say, a lot. So do we think that he actually is complaining too much? Does DeMar need to zip it just a little bit? As much as we love DeMar, like I've had that thought a lot this year. You don't. You say no.
My answer to that is no. One, I do hate it when referees want to police the game rather than just referee the game. Right? What you're talking about is like trying to police the game. Right? We don't need a policeman. We need a referee. But and referees are human. You gotta remember that these referees are human, and who knows why. There's always going to be these bad calls, bad games, things of that nature.
Right.
But as far as like DeMar complaining too much, no, because you have to allow DeMar. DeMar's having this kind of season right now where he cares so much about winning and cares so much about each game. That's how some of these players, they need that. If you took that away from him, then it's like you're quieting that fire. And you don't want to quiet the fire in him right now. You want that fire to burn. And every great player that has played, man, Tim Duncan, for how great Tim Duncan was as far as demeanor and whatever, man, that guy used to go crazy at the officials in the games. Like every great player did that. And right now, DeMar deserves to be treated like a great player. He's having the kind of season that he's allowed to be treated like a great player and complain as much as LeBron James, complain as much as any other star has complained out there. Durant and all the stars complain a ton, and he's a star right now, and he deserves it.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with he deserves it because he's been in the league for what? This is year 12, and he's DeMarvelous. Stacey King, by the way, continues to be on fire with his namesakes.
His puns are incredible.
What did he call it? I took a note on it. I think I wrote it down the other day. He said something about the mid-range game. It was a great line. I can't find
Monster
it.
of the mid-range?
Monster of the mid-range. Monster of the mid-range. I mean, that's just like getting the history of Chicago. It's you weren't here really for that. I mean, you kind of were, but you got to like the Monster of the Midway had already happened. Good job, Stacey King. Way to be at least an adopted Chicago. I was impressed. Vito, you ready for this last? I got two more things for you guys. One, Tristan Thompson, that I want to get to in a second. And I don't know if we've talked about this one before, but I had the same reaction watching the intros the other night again. Should Ayo Dosunmu be able to have from Chicago over from the University of Illinois? Because isn't the from Chicago, isn't that Derek's thing?
Oh, my gosh.
I think that Derek has from Chicago. That's his thing. You went to Illinois. Like, I don't know.
Was Dwayne Wade, did we say from Chicago for him too? The 1 year he was here?
I don't remember that. Maybe we did.
That year, I don't believe that was a real year. That was a glitch in the Matrix.
That year doesn't count. That doesn't count. But
that's a don't sweat the small stuff thing right there. Come on, man.
Come on.
Maybe when we're 30, we could be upset about that. 50 years old, man. That's I'm done with those kinds of worries.
Coach, I'm not 50 yet. I'm 48, and I can't get a table at Gibsons.
Hopefully in 2 years you find a communist that will come over you.
Well, I'm in my 30s, and I can tell you I don't sweat that stuff either. So.
Fair enough.
It doesn't bother me. I was bothered by one of the greatest when we talked about that, when DeMar said that about Michael. This doesn't bother me. Multiple people from Chicago. It's the third biggest metropolitan area in the country. I'm fine with them announcing him. And it's not like he goes last either, right? They don't end with him.
That's another one of my beefs, by the way. Who should they end with?
Isn't it Zach? I assume it's still Zach.
You can't switch mid-year and go DeRozan. You can't take that away from Zach.
It's still got to be Zach, right?
I mean, it is Zach, and I do think you can switch mid-year. Maybe you switch in the play.
No.
Like DeMar has passed you up.
You want to sign him next year? That's like total disrespect.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Back for the team. He's being a team guy.
All right.
Yes.
Well, they would cheer louder for DeRozan than they would cheer for Zach.
Well, hey, we had Scottie Pippen. He gets to go first and gets the
first
big loud one, right?
Yeah.
He gets the big first loud one.
No. This is an embarrassing thing. Scottie was second. Horace was first.
No, he meant the first. Yeah, but he got the first big cheer. Maybe is what coach.
Oh, really? Scottie was second. I thought Scottie was first.
Scottie was second. Horace came up.
Scottie was second. Okay.
And then
Dennis was was first, right?
96 through 98. How did that go? I'd have to go back and look. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go watch an intro after this one. I don't remember.
It was either Scottie or Dennis. Obviously,
that's what I'm thinking. I think Scottie was first.
No, I'm gonna guess.
I think Scottie was first.
Scottie was first. 96, 98.
Scottie was first.
I think Dennis was second. Then it went Luke, and then Ron,
Luke, then Hart, then MJ,
and then Michael.
Did Scottie go last when Jordan was gone?
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yes.
Okay.
I repressed the memory of those years.
I mean, I obviously don't remember, but I'm sure he went last.
I love how we just said we're not going to sweat the small stuff. We spent 5 minutes on the order of introductions from 30 years ago.
We gotta give our '90s fans an exciting thing to talk about, right?
The order of the intro matters, man. That stuff is important. That is. There's a pecking order, and it should be. It should be noticed.
They switched Derek, right? I mean, who went first in Derek's rookie year?
They had to have switched
Ben Gordon. Well, they had to switch mid-year. They couldn't have done a mid-year switch.
You know what though? I'll say this though.
Heinrich.
This is the Bulls' introductions are iconic. The Bulls' introductions are iconic because. So I went to the Chicago theater. We took my son and friends for his birthday party to a comedy show at the Chicago theater. We took him to Ronnie Chang at the Chicago theater. So I don't know if I'm a bad parent for taking him somewhere where there's cursing all over the place, but he's in 8th grade, but thought it would be kind of a cool little fun deal. We go there, and Ronnie Chang has like a DJ out there, and he basically plays what he wanted to do is he plays the Bulls music. He comes out, he goes, this is what I wanted to be my come out song. And it was the Bulls, the Bulls intro, right? Yeah. And the guy who was the DJ told him, he told him that he was stupid for doing that. And the DJ says, I didn't say you were stupid. I just said that's a bold choice, like taking that music, like for yourself. Like that's Michael Jordan's music. Like that's the Bulls. Like that's not you. So it was kind of interesting, but it just tells you how, and he did it through the thing. And it was really good because it was a great way to engage with the Chicago crowd, but it just tells you that people, see that is iconic. That intro for the Bulls is iconic.
It was our wedding intro for what Ray Clay did our wedding intros.
Really?
I'm not kidding. To the reception, Ray Clay to that song.
And
at bride and groom is how he finished. He announced everyone's height in the bridal party. He did their alma maters, and then he announced the bridal party, and he finished with us. So Ray Clay is a fantastic guy, by the way. Awesome.
That's awesome, Vito. I want a video of that. You're gonna have to.
I gotta send you that. I gotta send you the clip. I think I have the MP3 because he recorded it.
That's awesome.
So I gotta find that, but it was pretty good.
My wife would have killed me if I suggested that, but I think it's awesome.
I for about 1 year on the radio, I would go through Vito's wedding registry something. And we would
like our not website or something like that.
Yeah, and we would go through Vito's.
You would go to update back on 87.7 The Game. You would talk about our engagement story, how we got engaged, where our wedding was, like all that sort of thing.
You had tremendous details. I don't know why I used that as just tremendous radio at the time. That definitely moved the needle.
Well, there's a reason why the station didn't last.
Shockingly, the station didn't last. All right, so the Bulls, by the way, go for their 40th win tonight for the first time in 5 years history. Didn't get it Saturday. Try to beat Miami tonight. You guys looking at this like a statement game? Anything?
It's a statement week. It's a statement week for them. They got 4 games this week that are, really challenging. It's just too bad because no matter what, you can still feel good about the Bulls because there's so many players not there. You're still missing such valuable pieces to the team. But, the Bulls, I'm not going to poo-poo the Bulls being 2-12 against the top teams in the league. I'm not going to say, hey, we're not going to win. We're not any good. I'm not going to be one of those fans. But, yeah, there's question marks. And I'll say this now. I'll make my statement. A lot of things I try to say to portend the future. The Bulls have to find a way to score in a different way than Zach LaVine and DeRozan being so electric. Now when Ball and Caruso come back, we'll get more transition baskets again, more, defensive plays that lead to baskets. There's no doubt we'll get some more from there. But I really believe the key to the whole season is they got to find a way to make Vucevic a truly impactful part of the offense.
I'm glad you just brought that up, because I don't think there's anyone on the team that has it easier than him. He gets open shot after open shot after open shot. DeMar shooting contested shots. They just set Vooch up. Every damn shot he takes is basically open. And his percentage ain't great. So, I mean, he's played a lot better as of late. But he should be shooting a high percentage because they're open shots. I mean, he has them all night long. So
they have to go inside. They have to. Obviously, he played better when they went inside to him, and he became a big part of the offense in that. And they've got to continue to do that because, look, Joel Embiid is going to score. If they play the Sixers, Joel Embiid is going to score 34 points and have 16 rebounds, and he's going to dominate. But there's no reason that Vucevic in those games can't have 20 himself. It's the point of contention where I say, okay, you want a player who's a good defensive player. Well, Kobe's going to score 32 no matter who's guarding him. So you want at least somebody. So whether a good defender guarding him scoring 2 points, I'd weaker defender guarding him who scores 20. At the end of the day, you got to have him give us that interior presence of points, because otherwise you're so dependent on DeRozan and LaVine having strong shooting nights.
Yeah, it was just standing out to me watching Saturday. I'm like, dude, you just shoot open shots, open shot. But maybe you're right. Throw him in the post. He's more effective down there. Clearly, it's been a rough year from distance. All right, last one. What did I have here? Something. Oh yeah. Did you see the Tristan Thompson air ball? That might have been the worst free throw I've ever seen anybody take. I think it went about halfway to the hoop, and then he acted like, what's wrong? Like, and then he steps up there for free throw number 2. He breaks the backboard, and somehow the thing goes in. And
what's his percentage on the season? I
think he's shooting 62%. So it's not,
right.
It's better than I actually would think, right?
It's
never been his thing.
No, and I love him. Like, he's got, I'm instantly enjoying having him on the team.
No doubt.
He's got tremendous energy, and
you gotta love his press conferences too, because he's always talking like old Bulls and endearing himself to the fan base. Is like he's winning a Carman over for sure.
I mean, doing it for Dennis. He's all that is great.
He say he grew up watching Chuck Swirsky listen to Chuck Swirsky do Raptors games.
Did he say that?
He said, yeah, and he said, he goes, I loved it, and he goes, everything I think of Chuck, I think of goes together like salami and cheese or something like that. Because apparently Chuck used to say that all the time with the Raptors, and I'm like, that's so on brand.
I grew up.
I was stunned a little bit. I was a little stunned. I didn't realize, because you think of Tristan as like an older player, but you don't necessarily think of Vucevic and DeRozan as older players, but they're basically from the same year. I didn't even realize that when Tristan was talking about his relationship to those guys and playing against those guys with those guys. I was like, man,
he's younger.
I thought Tristan was like, I thought he was like, who was a player?
He's like Robert Parrish in '97, like 42 years old.
Like, you're thinking like one of those kind of players.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's actually not that old.
He's 30. I mean, DeMar's 32. He's a career, for the record, he's a career 60% free throw shooter, but his recent work, 59, 50 in 2021. With Sacramento this year, he was down to 53. And then in the smallest sample size ever, Beto, I will grant you that. He was at 38 with the Pacers, and he's now at 50 with the Bulls. He's 3 for 6.
He was shooting 38% with the Pacers.
He played 2 games.
He played 4 games.
4 games.
Yeah, he didn't shoot a lot of free throws.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess sleeping with a Kardashian takes some years off your life.
He's been very active. Congratulations to Tristan.
Very active.
Yes.
He is. He's also very active on, like, it's actually been a lot of fun to watch him play too. So actually, I'm curious. I know we probably got to get going, but Coach, do you, I saw on Twitter the argument that they should have closed with Thompson on Saturday night. And again, hindsight's 2020, but moving forward, could you, as a coach, would you ever see scenarios where maybe the Bulls have a late lead? Maybe they're up 6 with 3 minutes left, where you could see Billy going to Thompson over Vooch to close it out. Maybe they, or is that just A, detrimental mentally, and B, do you still think Vooch just brings way more?
No, I think for sure, if you're not using Vucevic offensively, I think that's one of the reasons that Tristan was an important piece to bring in. If Vucevic is not vital to you offensively down the stretch, then there's a good chance you are going to go to Tristan Thompson. It just depends. Obviously Vucevic helps you in a great deal of spacing the floor through the game. And there's parts where you want that for sure. But, Tristan Thompson also is a great offensive rebounder. And if Kobe White,
terrible offensive rebounding team, terrible.
Right. And if you feel like Kobe White and Lonzo Ball are surrounding you with that offense, that shooting around it, and you'd rather have a guy that can slash and, what's the difference between playing Vucevic and Javonte Green or Tristan Thompson and Kobe White, right? At the end of the day, not a huge difference.
All right, team. I think we've done it. I look forward to the day of Tristan Thompson closing out a game and grabbing a huge rebound with 13 seconds to go, and the United Center crowd going nuts for Tristan, and and whatever I just said, and the Bulls walking
combining the Kardashians, the K's with
you
Tristan.
You just want a reincarnation of Joe.
I do,
right? Everybody in Chicago wants a reincarnation of that.
Yeah,
that kind of play.
That brings me full circle to rounding up the conversation at Gibsons last night. We got to.
How was the conversation with Seth?
It was good. He's a huge fan of yours. For the record, he was very very praiseworthy to you. But we did top 5 all-time favorite Bulls. You could pick from any era. So
you were Elston Turner 1.
I think for like guys that were my favorite Bulls at a particular time, Orlando Woolridge, Quentin Daly, Michael, BJ was like I took that on. I thought it was
that an Iowa thing or no?
No, it was part Iowa, but it was mainly that I just thought that I thought that Paxson stunk and the BJ should be starting over him. I thought it was ridiculous, and it drove me nuts. So I was a BJ guy, and then Joe and Derek. Those are my 6.
So how are you going to be able to give that list and Beto doesn't get to give his?
He can. I want to hear it. I want to hear your top. I want to hear both of yours. Top.
That's on the spot. I love how, by the way, you have dinner with a reality TV star at a famous steakhouse in Chicago, and your conversation is, okay, top 5 Bulls of all time. Let's go.
Right. And Dave,
I love it.
I mean, come on.
Did you say Dave Corzine? Was he on the list for
delaying this? Come on, Beto.
No, okay, fine. Sorry. It just made me
think.
Okay, so obviously Michael, Joe, Derek, Dennis. Scotty's off the list now. Scotty's off.
But I'm saying, like, at any point in time when they were your favorite, like when you were just like all in on them. Ben Gordon is one of mine.
Ben Gordon literally might have rounded out my list. Luol Deng is up there too. I felt like he kind of got unheralded.
Yeah.
So I think that might be it. Irrational. Oh, Nate Robinson, fun. This is our honorable mention. Honorable mention team right now. Brad Miller was a blast. Loved watching Brad Miller. I don't know.
Some great candidates.
Cliff Levingston was like my irrational favorite guy when I was like really little because he always was like going nuts on the bench and I just loved him. It was a lot of fun too.
I was a Goo fan. I can't put him to that level, but Simon's comment is correct. I was a BJ number 2. Like I was.
You got BJ over Derek?
Not necessarily, but like BJ, I hooped with him at Multiplex back in the day. I had a major infatuation going on with BJ. He was way up the list.
Coach, what about you? You have all this time now.
I'm Jordan, Derek, Steve Kerr. That's probably those are my 3.
Oh, I forgot about Steve Kerr. He's
I
wore number 25 in high school because of Steve Kerr.
I always loved Steve Kerr. One, he's a shooter. Also, when I was a coach at Loyola, from 94 to 98, Burmeister recruited Steve Kerr to Arizona, who was my coach. So Steve Kerr was I was in love with Steve Kerr. Those would be the top 3 easily. I appreciate Scottie Pippen's game. Garrett Temple, of course, from last year.
You're forgetting an obvious one too, right? That'll be in your top 5 based on a personal relationship. You have John Starks, favorite bull of all time.
That's right. Oh man. Yeah, but that's not, you can't call him a bull. That's not fair. It's not fair to him or the Bulls. But those guys for sure. I'll be honest with you, I really love Zach LaVine.
Wow.
I've loved Zach LaVine since we've had him. Probably some of that is I was very positive about him and I had to defend him for so long that I grew to really appreciate him. Joakim Noah is without a doubt, him and Dennis Rodman, probably the 2 players that you could just enjoy watching as a basketball coach and love. For me, I love a player like that too. That's why, I like Garrett Temple. I love players that are going to put everything on the line.
We're going back to the well with Garrett Temple.
I'll just say this. I love players that will put everything on the line. That to me is what Joe and Dennis did. Is it didn't matter the game. Those guys were going to put every piece of their heart into the game. And I love players like that.
No Andres Nocioni mentions. Speaking of
I'm
going with Bobby Portis. I'm adding him in like my top 10-ish. I love Bobby.
Bobby is a fine call. And if Coach, you putting Charles Oakley in there?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because I hated it.
Let me think of
you hated Charles?
Who was my favorite player as a young kid was Adrian Dantley until he became a Piston. Like I loved him on the Utah Jazz. I was into Adrian Dantley as a player until he was on those Pistons teams. But I wasn't like the Bulls sucked, until Jordan. There's really not, you like Quentin Daly. That's probably the player I liked.
What about Artis?
Like Quentin Daly, right?
Artis get some love?
He got traded at
I liked Artis.
81, I want to say he was traded. So I was 8. I never.
He hadn't developed the
affinity. It hadn't hit. Reggie,
we were deprived of Norm. I was deprived of watching Norm. There's no doubt. If I got a chance to watch Norm Van Leer, he would have been one of my favorite players of all time for sure. I would have loved Norm Van Leer.
Well, definitely my favorite, by far, number 1 media Chicago Bulls personality was Norm.
Norm is incredible, right?
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, the greatest. All right, team, we've done it. Thank you for watching the Windy City YouTube/podcast Talking Bulls every Monday, 4:00. And yes, for those of you who are with us in our infant stages here, we greatly appreciate it. So, team, let's go get go get Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat tonight. Should be a fun one. And everybody, thanks for making the time. A lot of fun as always. And we'll see you. Appreciate you guys.
Later, gentlemen.
See you, boys.